We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask Councilor Beddison to read our mission statement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this on? Just begin to it. Silver City is the hub of an inclusive community settled within a small town that through rapid growth honors and preserves its historical, cultural, and natural heritage while facilitating jobs, health, and educational resources such that its residents and visitors may enjoy and protect the recreational opportunities of the area and high quality of life.
Thank you. Next item is public input, and the only one that signed up on an agenda item, so we will wait until that comes up on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Moranis, would you like to start?
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Rick?
I do. I would like to thank the town clerk and Matty for doing such a wonderful job the time I've been here and all the time that she has been here with everybody else. And also getting back to what an article in the paper that I read here a couple of days ago or last week about some person that is accusing us of different things. I don't really like to be accused of anything, and if we would have proof of what we have done illegally, then that would be okay. But just to open up and say something that is not true, I don't go for that. And I'm not here to cut out anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson?
No comments.
Thank you. Councilor Beddison?
Just several brief ones, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that I was in Santa Fe, not last week, I'm trying to remember what it was, the end of January 26th, for the Prospectors Legislative Day. I was there with the mayor and the town manager, Alex Brown, and we discussed the Prospectors legislative issues of concern with a number of legislators as well as several secretaries, and there were a number of items that were important to the town and other municipalities. The following week, I attended the New Mexico Municipal League's annual municipal day, and we were tracking bills affecting municipal gross receipts tax and other taxes, including anything that increased the administration fee for the collection of local gross receipts tax. And the mayor is keeping track of all these bills with a handy-dandy bill tracking device that he has, so he can discuss this in more depth. And we also were tracking the fireworks legislation, which I think most of you have heard about the outcomes, unfortunate, well, as they are, about what happened to both those bills. I also attended the New Mexico Municipal League's Board of Directors meeting. I'm on the board. I was elected to that last year, and we're keeping an eye on the legislation that affects municipalities, and I had yet to tell the mayor. I think I might have mentioned it in passing, but I was recently appointed by the New Mexico Municipal League's president, Matt White, to serve on a special tax task force. Say that 5 times quickly. And the focus of the task force is to design gross receipts tax legislation that will clearly separate state and local taxes, which is really important for us to keep the municipal taxes separate from the state. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll start with, I've been in Santa Fe for, well, since the day after the last meeting. And it's a very interesting process. I'll be tactful. I think it's important that you understand there's a lot of bills, and I'll give you some example. that are actually submitted as message bills, and they generally don't have any intent of proceeding with the bill. Sometimes they'll move them through one committee, and there'll be some debate in that committee, which gives you the environment that we're in, and it gives you just pretty much a feel for that environment. And probably the biggest message bill that was out there was introduced by Senator Smith, and that was to eliminate all gross receipts and compensating tax in the state of New Mexico. Now's when you gasp. So that bill essentially would have eliminated municipal government all over the state. The bill went through Corporations Commission. The message that came out of that was it passed fairly quickly out of that committee. And if you go back and you read between the lines, and if you're there enough and you can see the goings on, you kind of figure out there was probably close to 30 bills that were submitted that gave tax credits. So this message came through that says, if you want to give everybody a tax credit, how about we just eliminate tax? And that was the message that came out. The bill's not going to pass. If you look at the fiscal impact report on it, there's significant questions on its constitutionality, because it would eliminate many divisions of government, including the state of New Mexico, from being able to meet their bond obligations, which would be a violation of the New Mexico Constitution. So it's a message bill, which was quickly followed by a bill to eliminate the hold harmless. And just a little brief on that. Several years ago, when they eliminated the food and medical gross receipts tax, they held local governments harmless, which meant what they were collecting as a tax now gets distributed basically out of the general fund to those local municipalities. So what was reported is still reported. It's just not collected and is then distributed out to the local governments. They have been threatening and contemplating the removal of the hold harmless. And there's many avenues that they could do that. They could just flat out eliminate the hold harmless, which would remove that contribution to local governments all over the state. They could eliminate the hold harmless and put in an entitlement for local governments to enact their own tax to make up the difference. And they could do that either by local government action by the governing board, or they could make it by referendum. So obviously we're not looking forward to the day that message becomes a reality. And it was really driven home when the economy took a turn, and that got them thinking that they had to cut their expense out of the general fund, and that's one of the avenues that they could have. There's many of the tax bills that were up there this year were, besides the tax credits, were to reallocate the tax and take percentages of your gas tax, your cigarette tax, your other GRT that is collected, and reallocate it. And it's, for the lack of a better term, I'll call it an earmark. So they might earmark more of the taxes to, say, the road fund. Those bills don't seem to be gaining any feet really at this point. There's bills to increase the level playing field for interstate businesses and local businesses that are New Mexico home. And that bill actually passed the Senate floor yesterday, I believe, and it would basically target the big box stores. So stores that have over 30,000 square foot of retail space, their parent companies would have to file on a combined reporting instead of individual reporting, which apparently some of them do now. There's many other laws that are being considered. One passed the House a couple days ago that would require that our agendas be set and posted for 72 hours prior to a meeting. And that is in an effort to increase transparency in local government, which I've often said I'm a huge fan of transparency in local government, but I find it interesting that those bills come out of a body that puts out their schedule and it says, for the agenda items, see the door. For many, many bills, if you look on the internet and look at the bill tracker, you'll see the bills are not printed. That means they don't become visible to the public. And that's really disheartening. And I can tell you that there was a tax bill last year that affected the state fire fund and how we fund our fire departments. And that bill was heard at about 10 o'clock at night, and there was me, the senator who introduced the bill, one other senator, and the committee were the only ones in the room. And when our senator asked what my opinion on that bill was, my only response could be, I don't know. I've never seen it. It was not printed. It was referred straight to committee, and now it's being heard in the darkened night in Santa Fe. So I don't mind transparency, but I really think that the state needs to improve their own transparency before they worry about ours. We've all seen, I can make one little comment up here and 50 people show up to a meeting. Well, our people are getting the word. But if you're sitting at home trying to see what's going on in Santa Fe, many, many times there is absolutely no way that you can tell what is going on in that capital on any given day. And now the closer we get to the end, it becomes more difficult. So there's also bills, you'll see many on the tracker that say it's for the public health, safety, and welfare of New Mexicans. And when you open the bill, it's blank. It's got a title, a number, and that's all it says. And then some point in the next 4 days, that bill could turn into a real bill and actually have content put in and have a fiscal impact report developed for it. And there's really makes it difficult for us to track and see what business they're conducting. So I'll get off my soapbox on this, but I think our local transparency has been quite effective and efficient, and I would definitely hope that they would re-examine their own and hold themselves, if not to a same standard, to a very similar standard. So I think 3 weeks in Santa Fe, I'm a little jaded, but there's been many, many meetings up there, and you really have to be there, and you have to be there representing the town on a daily basis, or you miss out, and you miss out the opportunities to contribute to the debate and the discussion. So it really is important that Silver City's up there, and that's why we typically take a lead on many things across the state. While I was up there, I had a couple of meetings with PNM, and as many of you know, that they filed to close most of their payment centers around the state that are remaining. And the only people, organizations, institutions that filed to intervene in that case was the Public Regulations Commission staff, the Attorney General staff, the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Authority, and the town of Silver City. And that put us in a position where they have to sit down with us and negotiate what is the best way to serve our citizens in allowing them to make their payments for their utility bills. It also allowed us an opportunity to push some efficiency and some other relationship issues that we've had over the years. So, one, I'd like to thank Mr. Scavron for being on the ball and making sure that Silver City residents were represented in that case. And you did a fine job, and we've definitely held their feet to the fire in being responsive to our citizens. And I really think what we're asking is going to be what other communities will be thankful that they got. So, with that, I will move on. But I really encourage you to pay attention to what's going on in Santa Fe, and there is a lot of information available on the website for the New Mexico legislature. So, anybody need round two? Round two. Any changes to the agenda?
No.
Seeing none, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January 24th, 2012.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the regular minutes, that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 24th, 2012.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting January 24th, 2012. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no discussion, to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Town Council January 24th, 2012. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on, I just want to remind people that we're here on a Monday night because of a scheduling conflict that I have. I'll be in Washington, D.C. I'm leaving tomorrow, and the council was gracious enough to allow us to move the meeting up one day to allow me to participate. And I try not to make that a habit, but we have 3 days of meetings back there, and it's both for my job and for the town with some issues that have come up in the last week. So thank you for moving the meeting, and thank you, those of you that came, for showing up. And next item on the agenda is reports. Mr. Brown? How disappointing. Chief, any reports? Mr. Russell? Robert? Okay. Next item on the agenda, we'll move right into new business. Item under 11A, approval, disapproval of resolution number 2012-06 relating to the Town of Silver City, New Mexico grocery receipts tax improvement revenue bonds, Series 2012, establishing the exact aggregate principal amount of the bonds of $800,000, maturity dates, rates of interest, redemption features, and price with respect to such bonds in accordance with Town Ordinance number 1192, adopted on January 10, 2012, approving documents relating to the bonds and ratifying action previously taken in connection therewith. Mr. Muirhead, one moment. Mr. Moronis.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to disclose as part of this resolution, I am on the board of directors of Western Bank, who is part of this purchase agreement. I'd just like to make that known. I don't know if that weighs in my participation or not.
Any comments from the council? I don't believe that it does. I think the disclosure is sufficient as long as you feel confident that you can act in an unbiased manner as a counselor in this role. Any objections from the council?
No.
Mr. Muirhead.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. What you have in front of you is Resolution 2012-06, which is the third and final step related to the issuance of the 2012 bonds that was anticipated in Ordinance 1192 from January 10th. That was a much longer bond parameters ordinance which set parameters and approved the project. In that meeting, You had identified 3 or 4 different things that you might do that all fit within the definition for this capital project. In there, it said a maximum amount of $1 million, maximum interest rate of 12%, which is the statutory maximum, and then highlighted the pledged revenues, which were the state shared gross receipts tax, which are intended to be a backup pledge, and 1 increment of your municipal gross receipts tax, which is intended to pay back the debt. So with this resolution, in the intervening month, Mark Valenzuela, who's the town's financial advisor, has sought out various potential lenders or purchasers of the bonds, and has determined that your local bank, Western Bank, had the most favorable terms, and that is what you have in front of you. And so this sale resolution establishes an exact principal amount of $800,000, which is under the $1 million. About gave you a heart attack there. So $800,000, which is below the $1 million par amount maximum in the parameters resolution. And if you turn to page 2, shows each maturity and interest rate over the 6 years of this bond, which is each maturity at 2.32%, maturity starting June 1, 2012, annually through 2017. The principal amounts $135,000, $125,000, $130,000, $135,000, $135,000, and $140,000. That interest rate substantially lower than the statutory maximum. It is an attractive rate. What you have here is an unrated credit, and without a private placement, so you don't have the public marketing that you did in the last series. So for an unrated credit, 2.32%, and the first maturity through the 6th-year maturity is a very competitive transaction. And that's what Mr. Valenzuela had done over the last several weeks to make sure that he found the best possible deal. And it's always nice when a community bank and a partner with the community steps up and does this. The other critical thing that it does, it approves the bond purchase agreement, which I think is in your packets as well. This is a fork in the road, as it were, just so that you're all aware. When you do the parameters resolution or the intent resolution, those are critical steps, but they are not binding that you're, like, for sure going to close the transaction. This bond purchase agreement creates a contractual relationship with the town and Western Bank from this date until the closing date, which we anticipate to be within 2 weeks. To get out of that, there are basically, for either side to get out of it, there are items referenced in that bond purchase agreement, all related to should the financial markets or, basic functioning of the economy or national calamity ensue that allows you to back out of that transaction. But this is important because this does enter into this bond purchase agreement, and you're saying, yes, we want to go through with these terms, $800,000 at 2.32% for a 6-year period. There is no option to optionally redeem these to pay them off earlier because of the short term. The lender, usually you're looking at a term over 10 years before you'd find a bond purchaser or lender willing to sign on and say, yeah, you could pay these off early. Happy to answer any questions. The resolution, that's what it does. Happy to answer any questions about the resolution or the bond purchase agreement. The bond purchase agreement, just quickly, is the provisions in there are traditional and consistent public finance provisions, which there isn't any twist in that I would alert you to, other than the fact it does require the town, barring, again, significant national issues or the bank having significant issues, from not closing on the transaction.
Questions? Mr. Brown, did you want to discuss what the purpose is?
The purpose of this loan is to purchase a piece of property that we're doing reservations on. And the other part of it is to act as a guardian office for an item that's on the current agenda, which is to do additional work on College Street.
Are you hesitating to discuss what property we're purchasing?
The negotiations are final, but I can say, okay, it's the Shamrock.
Okay. I'm just pushing you because this is this is the last meeting where we would disclose that, and I think it's important as well to describe why in the world we would buy a gas station.
Yes, well, we've been talking for many years about, we own most of the property in that old block, those couple blocks downtown, and we wanted to close on that final piece because that's the only piece that we do not own in that area. We have had discussions with the county and the schools. So for the meantime, what we're planning on doing is doing with the property and just using it as a fueling station for the town of Silver City vehicles as well as county vehicles. And thus, as you know, which we had a lengthy discussion about when we purchased we awarded the bid for gasoline, that we paid a certain cent, whatever cents, I think it was 12 cents over rack. We would be able to purchase the gas at rack prices in bulk and avoid that extra cost and thus have a savings for the town and the county.
And the debt service on this bond puts us where in a ratio to our previous debt service that was recently resolved?
Because because of the refinancing and the favorable rates that we received with the refinancing, we're not paying very much more now than what we had been paying already on the bonds, on the loans that we had refinanced.
And Mayor and Alex, the debt service breaks out roughly between $140,000 and $145,000 annually for the next 6 years. And that's what you're referencing. That fills that delta of what your savings, portion of the savings from the prior transaction.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that we're not really adding debt that we haven't had for many, many years.
That is absolutely true.
We resolved most of our debt
Yes.
in this fiscal year and the last fiscal year, which allowed us to re-encumber that money to different purposes, which is what we're doing. The other issue on the gas station, I want to make it clear that we own that entire block from Pope to Main, correct? And 12th to 11th. So we already own everything in there with exception of the piece of land that the Shamrock is sitting on. And we have had many, many talks for a number of years about developing that area and around the park as a city center, consolidating services, making it more efficient for operations as well as for the public when they have to do business with the town. And not having that property would be in the way of that plan. We definitely do not have the finances to actually implement that plan at this time, but we do have the finances available to set us on that course. And this may be the only time that we would be able to get on that course and complete that project at a later date.
Also, Mayor, maybe I want to mention that originally when it was about 5 years ago, maybe it was a little bit longer, we inquired on purchasing this same piece of property, and the purchase price that was quoted to us was $750,000. The current price is at $250,000. $354.
Still half.
Still have.
Any comments from anybody in the audience? Anything from the council? Councilor Benson.
Alex, if you could just kind of go through I know we're going to talk about it a bit later, but at this point, could you just explain what we're doing with College Street, with the additional work we plan to do on that?
I'll let Peter talk about that.
I know we'll talk about it later, but since we're at that point right now,
Later in the agenda today, we'll be looking at awarding a bid for College Avenue. What we're looking at doing is a street and drainage project from just west of Texas Street all the way to Cooper Street. What we're looking at doing is redoing sidewalks, handicap ramps, ADA drive pads, new asphalt. What we're trying to do is also incorporate some drainage improvements through there, since we have a lot of flooding. So, in short, that's sort of what the project is.
great. Thank you.
Comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I move that we approve resolution number 2012-06 relating to the Town of Silver City, New Mexico Gross Receipts Tax Improvement Revenue Bonds, Series 2012, establishing the exact aggregate principal amount of the bonds of $800,000, maturity dates, rates of interest, redemption features, and price with respect to such bonds in accordance with the Town Ordinance Number 1192, adopted on January 10th, 2012, approving documents relating to the bonds and ratifying action previously taken in connection therewith.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that as written.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2012-06 as presented on the agenda and read twice now. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2012-06 relating to the Town of Silver City, New Mexico Gross Receipts Tax Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2012, establishing the exact aggregate principal amount of the bonds of $800,000, maturity dates, rates of interest, redemption features, and price with respect to such bonds in accordance with Town Ordinance Number 1192, adopted on January 10, 2012, approving the documents relating to the bonds and ratifying actions previously taken in connection therewith. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to summarize again, that we will be back in a couple of weeks, not for a council action. It will be Ann and Robert and Alex and the mayor to go over documents and sign those with Western Bank, and it'll be closed more than likely by the end of February. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1197, an ordinance granting to Public Service Company of New Mexico, a New Mexico corporation, its successors, and assigns the right, privilege, and franchise to furnish electricity within the Town of Silver City, New Mexico, and granting to Public Service Company of New Mexico, a New Mexico corporation, the right to use any public highway, street, alley, road, or other public place. Mr. Skowron, did you want to discuss?
This is a 20-year franchise. It is very standard in that it resembles the franchise that had been issued before to TNMP and to the predecessor to TNMP. For 25 years, excuse me. The franchise fee that the town will be getting is in line with the rest of the state, so 2.5%. There's no change there. The one interesting part about the franchise is that during the negotiation, which went on for several months, there was some hesitancy on the part of P&M to sign a franchise that required specific types of behavior in our parks and trails and open spaces. Every other municipality in the state does not have laws regarding what the franchisee can do on their parks, trails, and open spaces. And in consultation with the town manager, we decided that we wanted to take an unusual step of protecting parks, trails, and open spaces from not just P&M, but from all franchisees. So you'll see later in the agenda is another NOI. It's on this agenda, or later in this meeting, which is specifically what we did get in this ordinance is an agreement that they will abide by any laws of the town, past, present and future. So there is going to be an ordinance that you'll be considering, which will talk about how franchisees will operate within our parks, and trails and open spaces. But it's not part of the franchise. Then the next NOI will apply to all franchisees. It'll apply to the gas company, it'll apply to Comcast, and it will apply to CenturyLink as well as P&M. And in looking around the state, P&M, and we disclosed to P&M what we are going to do, they're okay with it. And they also pointed out that this is the first in the state. So once again, we're leading the state in something by putting a higher value than most on our parks, trails, and open spaces.
There's, in that section that you're referring to on it's section 1, page 4, construction activities. We refer to planning and zoning ordinances. Does that include the land use code?
That is the land use code.
Okay.
Right. There's another place in this ordinance that says that they will abide by all laws of the town. Let me see if I can find it. On section 2, all company plan, system, and facilities, dedicated parks, open spaces, designated trails will be in conformance with planning and zoning ordinances then in effect of the town. And then there's, let's see if I can find the other section.
Section 2, page 2.
Yeah, section 6, the electric franchise ordinance and all rights granted under the ordinance are subject to the lawful exercise of the police powers of the town now has or may later obtain, and are further subject to the exercise of the town's rights as property owner under state and federal law, except as expressly set forth herein. Neither the granting of this electric franchise ordinance or any provision herein shall constitute a waiver or bar to the exercise of any governmental right or power of the town. All right. And then also in section 6, article 6, section 1, will be in conformance with planning and zoning ordinance then in effect within the town and with town-specified design and construction standards as may apply by provision of the town's municipal code.
It's on page 4.
And then
Article 6.
when this other ordinance is passed, that will be basically incorporated into this.
So,
That was the intent, is that as we change our ordinances, they are incorporated into the franchise.
so in light of the discussion that I had with you earlier, Robert, and the letter of concern that I received today regarding the placement of poles, the removal of poles and sidewalks, as you mentioned earlier, the clear sight triangle, blocking pedestrian signaling or other signaling, are you confident that this franchise agreement will protect the town from any violations of that in the future?
Well, in the land use code, they have something about, for this particular project, as I understood, this post is going to be relocated anyway as part of the 12th Street project. But if there was no project there, then we would be demanding that they relocate the pole on the basis of public safety. And we have that right to do. It's in the Clearside Triangle. There is a planning, in the land use code, there is a provision about not obstructing clear-side triangles. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea, and I don't know how, we negotiated for quite a while, and we got to certain concepts. Looking at the language here, I would like to, at this point, considering this pole issue kind of brings up another matter about the compliance generally with all the laws of the town. And the exercise of police power, that's the passage of ordinance. So implicit in that is that they will abide by our exercise of our lawful ordinances. But I don't think it would hurt to put in some very straightforward non-legalese language saying that whatever the laws are of the town, you shall obey them.
I'm always for simple English.
So what I would do is suggest that in section 6.1, instead of the section being entitled, well, this is construction activities, that's basically all they can do to hurt us is construction activities. Instead of planning and zoning ordinances, I would rather have just municipal ordinances and substitute municipal ordinances for where it says planning and zoning ordinances. Make it that broad.
I would agree, and I think we have some areas in town that there's a pole or a whole string of poles that are running right down the middle of sidewalks. And if they were to need to address those poles at some point, they need to be removed out of the sidewalk. We put in sidewalks for safety measures for pedestrians. I think that's a safety issue when we turn around and block the sidewalk. And I really want to make sure that this agreement incorporates those desires going forward. He's thinking.
This has gone back and forth for quite a while. I think that in a conversation with you, you mentioned that the three branches of P&M, their local staff, their regulatory staff, and their executive staff, the three of them together can't figure out what their policy is on poles. And we have repeatedly told them that we are going to do an inventory of poles within the town. The ones that are abandoned are going to be removed, and the ones that are blocked, that are creating a public safety, we're going to write letters and say, pull them out. Relocate them in places in the right-of-way that are not constituting a public safety issue. And they're going to do it at their expense. We can do that under existing law. That's the police power that we have. And the law in the court law is that we have that power, and they won't fight us on that. But the issue has been, sometimes they might abandon a pole, but there'll still be Comcast on the pole, there'll still be telephone on the pole. All those agreements, one of the things that we've insisted on is that any of those agreements with these other pole attachers, their rights are subordinate to whoever put the pole there, P&M. So if P&M has to move the pole, the others can't stand in the way. And that is, we did get that point across. So that should not be an issue. We can make a demand. The question is whether we do the assessment of the way the poles are. And I guess that would be, Peter working with P&M, and then identify which of the poles that are public safety issues, and then identify the poles and tell them to move them. It would be that straightforward. If we wait for them to do it, we'll all be gray, or some of us will be grayer.
That was funny. Just for clarity, the policy confusion in P&M was on abandoned poles. Councilor Besson?
Counselor, I had spoken with the town manager, Mr. Brown, earlier today, because my concern, because I went to my handy-dandy, not really, it's kind of hard to pick up, but the code of ordinances, and was looking at the electrical franchise for what was formerly known as Texas New Mexico Power. And it does state in there, flat out, that the grantees' poles and other facilities shall be placed and erected in such a manner as not to interfere with traffic and pedestrians, and the location, relocation, and construction and manner of erection of such poles and facilities shall at all times be subject to the police power of the town. And that was it's right here in the first Article 1 of the old electrical franchise agreement. So one of the things that I commented to Mr. Brown about is that if we did do this, I wanted to ensure that if this stayed this way, without any change, that the one we're looking at, that we as a town had to ensure that we had to ensure that whatever was done, if poles were in the way that they were moved, or poles were put in places that we did not agree to, that they were changed, such as the one at 12th and Pope, the southwest corner. But if any of our franchisees removed asphalt or sidewalk or anything like that, that they replaced it in the manner that we have outlined in our land use code or other portions and other ordinances. And the reason I say this is just from the experience I had with the changing of the gas meter in front of my own home before I was a counselor in the town of Silver City, and the issues I had with the change in placement and the way the sidewalk doesn't look like the rest of the sidewalks, and the issues we had with paving on our street and how they had to come back in and repave. So whatever's done, I want to ensure that our residents are not having to call and complain, say that poor workmanship has been done, that they're coming back to town to say we are not doing our duty because they'd already paid for that to be paved, or they'd already paid for it to have a nice sidewalk, that we're making sure that whatever is done by a franchisee is following our land use code. And I did go back and forth, and I was telling Mr. Brown that I did find in the land use code, under 5.4 of our new land use code, it does say in the section where it's talking about new developments, it does have a statement saying in existing neighborhoods with sidewalks, repair and replacement of less than 150 feet has to conform to, the towns. It does say that. And so if you keep reading in there, it does say, whenever possible, repair and replacement has to conform to ADA. So you have to find it, though, within sections where it's talking about new development. It does say what you're supposed to do with repair and replacement of existing facilities. Yes.
Article 7, Section 1.
Okay, what page, please?
Page 5 of 10. The Article 7, relocation or removal of facilities. P&M, at its expense, shall protect, support, temporarily disconnect, relocate, or remove along, under, or over any street, alley, or any other public place, P&M's equipment or facilities when reasonably required by the town for reasons of public safety, street excavation, street construction, or the change or establishment of street grade. It will also, if you go further down,
Right.
P&M also agrees to remove abandoned utility poles once all pole attachers have removed their facilities from P&M's pole.
My question to you is, how long has that pole been there? Actually, it's to Mr. Brown.
We've never asked them to move it. been there a couple of weeks, hasn't it?
No, it's brand new pole. That's what I'm saying, is it should not have been put there in the first place.
Well, then, right now,
It's a brand new pole. So what I'm saying is it shouldn't have been even, there's some other new poles that are going up that are going...
Hold on.
Could you
One at a
finish?
time.
There's some other new poles going up in town that are in locations that are a little, I mean, when I've gone by, I've wondered why they've been placed at an egress or ingress into someone's, a business's, parking area. It's not necessarily the best place for, public safety.
we're still under the old franchise. Under this franchise, they will have to get permits. They will have to apply for a permit. The permit will state, I want to put a pole here. The permit can be denied. They don't have the automatic authority. Alex has a better memory than I
Can
do.
you tell me where, Alex?
Alex,
Because I don't remember reading that they had to have a permit. But, well, it's in here? God, I went
well,
through
it's a
this.
street breaking permit.
It's a street breaking permit, but not to put a pole in.
It was being put in the sidewalk, so they would have had to get a permit to put the pole where they put it.
Okay.
And
So if it
that's in
didn't have a
our,
sidewalk, it
that's in
wouldn't...
our ordinances right now.
Okay.
So fundamentally, if this ordinance is passed as it is, they're going to have to get a permit. We can deny the permit. They'll learn from experience when they put a pole in and then we tell them to take it out. It would be to their disadvantage to start sticking poles in when a week later they have to take it back out.
Good. Let him talk.
Yeah, I was going to say one talk. That was really my concern, was making sure that the town's protected and we're... I think the same thing. I got the same email but talked with Alex this morning about that same email.
I think we can bring up another issue that when I go to the audience, we're going to get another issue presented to us. Kathy, would you like the floor?
I think that I changed the planning and zoning ordinance, that suggestion I made earlier to municipal code, so that all laws made by the town are, that there's no question that all the laws are applicable. And as far as them having to get a permit, that's already in our municipal code, that they have to get, if they're gonna break sidewalks in the street, they have to get
Is there any objections from the council in replacing planning and zoning ordinances with town ordinances
Throughout the document?
throughout the document?
No. No, sir.
There we go. Mrs. Anderson, you have the floor.
Actually, it's Ms. My husband gets called Mr. Anderson occasionally, and he really dislikes that, so we'll just clarify we have different last names. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, Alex, Robert. I come here first to talk about, and if I could pass out a little slip of paper, if that's all right. I first apologize if my comments sound scattered, so in the sake of brevity and not being scattered and knowing this isn't a work planning session, how long do I have?
Just make your point as quick as you can.
All right, there are several. I need to go through the document page by page, but it'll be very, very quick. I think any time an entity engages in a 25-year contract by ordinance, things such as the subject I just heard discussed with respect to compliance with other law that exists locally is critical. Page 2, Section 2, line 2, should include public safety, fire department facilities or safety corridors. I think that could be very helpful. I think that the compliance with local ordinance, in my reading of this, now deals only with the excavation or those in effect at the time with respect to the overall grant of the franchisee, which overrides, in my logic, excavation. So in other words, the entire agreement, to me, talks about current planning and zoning ordinances in effect at the time.
Okay, let's go back to the exact amendment that you were speaking of.
Page 2 of 10, Section 2, line 2, include public safety, fire department facilities or safety corridors would help in part, in my thinking, with the sidewalk, realizing that 4 lines later, then in effect, tends to limit it in time. I would think that I would want to see Section 2 include and all municipal ordinances in effect, then in time or as may change. That's going to be a difficult one for P&M to swallow, but nevertheless. I am most interested in the light poles that are put up anywhere and everywhere, and the types of lights becoming more drop bubble lens, brighter and whiter and hotter. That's continuing everywhere. I just don't see anything that says that amendment is easy under this, so for 25 years that could be very difficult. Perhaps in Section 3 there should be an additional process added for amendment rather than going back to one another as parties and just request amendment. That can break down pretty quickly. And finally, under Section 6, which is still under the article having to deal with the grant of the entire agreement, line 4, inserting local before state and federal laws, so that local, state, and federal laws are all on the table. The relocation, removal of facilities, I don't see how you can just remove a pole there because someone feels they can't see a crossing light, but maybe there's some hope for additional language to fix that. If I understand it correctly, 2.5% is to last the 25 years. There's no renegotiation, and I also don't see any auditing of P&M's gross receipts required as a matter of agreement or law. Since you're passing a law, I would think you'd be able to audit their gross receipts records anytime you want, if it's in your ordinance. I don't see it. I don't see it. Is it in there somewhere that you can audit their gross receipts? Good. I must have missed it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, on behalf of some conflicting interests here, I know our citizens that I hear from on the Neighborhood Alliance and in the Solar Homeowners Association are very interested in continued shielding of lights, such as that is now being done by P&M on the slip of paper I passed out. People should know they can request those new sky caps, which are an evolution of ones that were here 12 to 15 years ago, so that they don't have their light shine into their neighbors' eyes while they're trying to sleep. At the same time, I hear a concern about safety because of various events that may happen in people's lives, so I would hope that P&M could be put to the test in putting these anytime private property holders also request lamps. We have, so far in this town, something like 8 different street poles going, street light fixtures, wide variety. We should be able to get to some kind of similarity that keeps our dark skies happy, so we can keep having people come here and spend money giving us more gross receipts tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We do have the right in section on page 7 of section 2, the town may from time to time, during business hours and upon reasonable advance written notice, inspect and audit at its own cost P&M's books and records. So we do have that. If we want more control over the polls, which seems to be, the night sky issue, I don't see them agreeing that unless it was part of an ordinance that was not part of the franchise. In other words, that any new construction has to have night sky considerations.
But whatever is in the land use code as far as night skies, and whatever we decide to amend through proper process in the land use code for night skies, they would be required to come into compliance with, or come into compliance whenever that pole needed serviced?
When they replace the light fixture, they would have to.
Peter? Sorry.
Ms. Anderson was quite involved in helping draft the lighting portion of the land use code ordinance. We hope that it addresses a lot of the issues that are dark sky oriented. One element, though, is that it looks forward. It doesn't look backwards. So, lights that are existing. Should they be removed or otherwise altered, then we can require the new improved version to go in. But the existing ones were not required. There's not some sunset clause for changing them.
We did have a meeting to discuss that, and they've done some work. And what I would like to make sure that we protect our night skies looking back as well. The council, apparently at the time that we approved the land use code, wasn't willing to do that. It might be interesting and probably a fair question to ask P&M what would be the capital investment that they would have to make to do this, which I think we can make, and I think they would probably do their best to answer that. I think most of the discussion at the time came back to homeowners and what it would cost me or somebody with less financial capacity to replace lights that they may have just bought. I think in the franchise agreement, though, we need to focus on can we force them to comply with the ordinances that we impose in the future, as well as what's currently on the table, without having to go through and negotiate another franchise agreement. And from what I'm hearing is you're confident that that is a fact.
I have a suggestion.
I have ears.
On page 4 of 10, construction activities, first of all, throughout there should be one blanket change. Anywhere where it's mentioned planning and zoning ordinance should be changed to municipal code.
We already did that.
Okay. The second change would be in section 2 excavations. I would change that title. I would change to excavations and pole placements. And what I would say is that after the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, subject to the limitations provided herein in this electric franchise ordinance and the town's municipal code. That would take care of poles, because when you look at the next page about relocation, it takes any ambiguity out of the issue. Now, this is not a dramatic change, but it does specifically single out poles, and that seems to be one of the bigger considerations. Now, so I suggest that you do that in this NOI. because of the length of negotiations, and it's been very heated at times, as a courtesy, I would let P&M know. And I would also let them know in such a fashion that it's a take it or die. And let them decide if they want to accept this franchise or not. And your action would give the leverage that would be necessary to make it go through.
Well, I think it's important to let P&M, well, hold on. Is there any objection to making that modification to the NOI that was just spoken of?
The two modifications? No, it's good.
Okay. I think it's important with the corrections or changes that we've just made, that P&M understand that it was debated by the council, that there was public input received, and this is the direction that the public and the council, in representing them, feel that we need to be at. If they object, then then things are going to get really difficult for us to maintain a relationship.
I will convey the message exactly as you put it.
Thanks. Any other discussion from the audience? Come on up. You could have brought all your stuff. Just stayed up here.
Thank you. I know people don't get a second shot at council meeting, usually. If the intro language covers all municipal ordinances, I don't have much of a problem. If it's buried under excavation for 25 years, I'm not real comfortable with that. The retrofit that can be done to the street lights, as imaged in this photograph, costs about $10 a pop. We're not talking about a lot of capital outlay eventually. They've already started it. They should be able to keep the ball rolling with our friendly, ongoing educational efforts. Thank you.
I agree with you, and I also think that the changes in aggregate accomplish the goal that you're referring to. Anything else from the audience? Seeing none, anything from the council? Councilor Thompson.
One thing that Kathy brought up that I was just curious about was the length, the 25-year. Is that pretty standard?
All franchises are going to be 20 to 25 years. The shortest, even Comcast now, they want 20 years. And that doesn't stop you from saying, no, I'm going to do 15. I don't care what they want. Or I care, but it's to our advantage to make it 15. You have that power.
Our previous franchise agreement was 25 years.
That was,
No, what had happened was, the previous agreement was 5 years. And the reason for that was because that was when Texas New Mexico Power was merging with P&M. And we were going to renegotiate because they were going to have both the gas and the electricity. But the previous agreement with Texas New Mexico Power was 25 years.
Obviously, making a 25-year commitment is definitely something to put a lot of thought into. However, I also know that there's been a lot of debate at the state level on franchise issues, and I think if we can lock up a 25-year franchise at this point that could most likely survive any changes in state law, that we may be better off in the end for doing it.
I think that the law would agree with you. The national trend is to deprive municipalities and counties of their rights to regulate their own rights of way. That's what the telecom industry is trying to do right now.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I move for approval of notice of intent ordinance number 1197, an ordinance granting to Public Service Company of New Mexico, a New Mexico corporation, its successors and assigns, the right, privilege, and franchise to furnish electricity within the town of Silver City, New Mexico, and granting to Public Service Company of New Mexico, a New Mexico corporation, the right to use any public highway, street, alley, road, or other public place with the amendments that were agreed upon. Do I need to state those?
Yes. Can I help you?
Yes, sir.
Every phrase, planning and zoning ordinance shall be replaced with the words municipal ordinances. Article 6, Section 2, title will be changed from excavations, it will be excavations and power placement. And then the fourth line down, after hearing this electric franchise ordinance, the words and the town's municipal code should be added.
Stated.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no discussion, to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1197 as read and amended tonight. Is everybody confident that you fully understand the amendments that were placed?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So there's a motion and a second to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1197 as read and posted on the agenda and as amended tonight. Everyone stating that they have full understanding of the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1196, an ordinance I'll do it. Let me just finish reading. An ordinance authorizing execution and delivery of a power purchase agreement by and between the town of Silver City and NRG Solar Silver City LLC for the purpose of obtaining guaranteed savings in the town's cost of electricity during the term of the power purchase agreement and providing for the pledge of utility cost savings for the purpose of securing payment of amounts due under the power purchase agreement, ratifying action previously taken in connection therewith, repealing all action in conflict herewith. Councilor Bettison, you have the floor.
Can I do that?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
There's a motion for a short break. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second for a short break. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll have a short break. We'll call this meeting of the Town Council back to order, and we are on new business, item C, approval, disapproval of notice of intent ordinance number 1196. An ordinance authorizing execution and delivery of a power purchase agreement by and between the town of Silver City and NRG Solar Silver City LLC. As I read right before the break. And
Thank you, Mayor Council. As you might remember,
Most of you, it's been a long time since we awarded this bid to, it was called a different company at the time, Solar Power Partners, but they were bought up by NRG. But basically, we spent a year negotiating this power purchase agreement. It's to install a solar array at the wastewater treatment plant, which will lock in a rate for the town of Silver City of 6.9 cents a kilowatt hour for the next 20 years. The pledge on for the payment of the bill for the use of the solar power is the wastewater, the water sewer fund. Earlier
discussed, because we were originally looking at gross receipts tax, and that was something that was unacceptable. So we've been able to work out an agreement so that it is the wastewater funds that are being leaned to pay the basically the operating costs for the wastewater treatment plant, which is normally that's where we're paying from anyway. If this NOI is accepted, the next step is that it would be brought to a future meeting to be passed, but we would also be working on an industrial revenue bond so that they can build the facility, and that requires that we work with the county, the school district, and we waive our ability to charge property tax on the facility. The schools, we only have to notify the schools, the county, of our intent to do an industrial revenue bond. I did send a letter to them already. I met with Superintendent Mr. Poole today to discuss the IRB, and he will have it on their March agenda to whether they are going to waive their right to receive the payment in lieu of taxes, which is basically, it's a minimum amount that they would be receiving anyway. So it was a very positive discussion. So this will basically, as PNM has gone to time of use, it will go to time of use at our wastewater treatment plant. I believe we'll be paying something like, how much during the day?
It's a blended rate of 10.6 cents.
10.6 cents. 10.6 cents. We've got a savings there down to 6.9, and that's locked in. So any future increases that PNM requests, and if they're given the increase, we are still locked in at 6.9%. But we probably will have to use some of their utilities, some of their electricity, but that would be at night when there is a lower rate than during the day.
You have a clarifying question?
6.9 cents.
6.9 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay, thought you said percent.
Oh, so I think I started saying percent.
Yeah, okay. 6.9 cents for 20 years. After that, we would need to renegotiate. We would do everything to renegotiate, so we would not have
we have the right to purchase what's left there, the equipment, if it's usable, or we can do whatever else we might. We'd have to use either PNM or maybe go back and look for solar power again, if that's what we choose.
And
over the 20 years, it's $4 million savings, basically.
thank you. You know what's going on.
Any other questions? Councilor Morales?
So we'd be waiving the property tax, or our piece of the property taxes on that?
Not of it, that would be in the IRB. That would be in the IRB.
Kind of, if they go hand in hand just a little bit, we're saving $4 million, how much would we be losing on that project?
Let me give an example. The total property taxes that the town receives annually is $270,000. That's from everything. So this would be $50.
I think that you made a good point, even on the issue with the bond that was brought up, that by us buying the Shamrock, we're removing a property from the tax rolls of Silver City. I think that's under $50. So, compared to the benefit that we would get.
Yeah. I do want to say that our is not our debt. That is the debt of the company. It's just a mechanism so that the property becomes tax exempt.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I just comment. One, I'd like to commend the staff and Alex, Mr. Scavron, Mr. Russell, the Office of Sustainability in the back, Mr. Cicillo and crew that are, you're almost all here. Throughout the process, I got asked a lot of pretty much technical questions for guidance, and not near the level that this team had to address, and this was an extremely complicated project going forward. And I believe, once again, we are setting the stage for the rest of the state and how other municipalities and divisions of government would address their needs for energy efficiency project. As well as at the same time, there was a multitude of issues that came up that required negotiations in protecting the town and our current and future revenue sources that had to be addressed. And I think the team that worked on this has done an exceptional job, as well as our vendor, in working towards agreements that ensured stability. So with that, I'd just like to commend all of you for a lot of hard work and many, many months of meetings and phone calls, and I'm happy to see we're finally at this point.
Well, I do want to say that they worked so hard on this PPA that they actually is looking to be like the model for the agreements throughout the state. So they did a very good job. Nick, Peter, Mr. Stavron, Brian, I really appreciate all the work that you did to help. I do also want to thank some members of the Initial Evaluation Committee. And Nick, you want to come up and talk about them a little bit?
It's a great pleasure to do that. I think, Mr. Mayor, as you mentioned, it's been a long time coming. We started negotiations mid-January last year after the award was made. We've been particularly supported not only during the selection process by Robert Escada, but also in the volunteer category. Very important to us, Kurt Auershart and Jim Kerstetter, who also had put in a good 2+ years on the climate committee, and it really was an enhanced effort with their support, and simply demonstrated simply by the fact that they're here tonight. And I call them like I usually do if something important comes up, and can you be there? And they say, sure. What's your best guess as to when it's going on? I was a half hour off tonight, but who knows? Things have come out well, and I want to say thanks to them. Thank you for asking me to come up and acknowledge them.
Just to amplify something that Alex was talking about, one of the reasons for the lengthy negotiations was that this is the company's first foray into New Mexico. And we had indicated, and that was through your comments, that we should share with other municipalities and other governments what we were going through. So we actually had contacts with other municipalities about what their concerns might be. So this negotiation, although it's the best for the town, It's also going to prove best for many other municipalities in New Mexico. And again, mentioning that the ramrod of this project was Nick Cicillo, and he did the heavy lifting. This was incredibly complicated. The documents were, even the ordinance that you're passing or you're voting on tonight, it started out as 14 pages. It's down to 3. So there was a negotiation on every point of it, and we believe that we've set a very good precedent for the rest of the state, and we expect that at least Alamogordo, Las Cruces has contacted us, Deming, and a number of other municipalities. They want to use our PPA as their template. And that's, again, credit to the town.
Thank you. I'd like to take a little privilege at this point. Mr. Kerstetter, would you stand up for me? When we passed the mayor's climate, that really long string of words that developed the committee that started all of our work here on energy efficiency, we advertised as typical that we need volunteers and we need interested people to participate, and we really never know who we're going to get. And I just want to tell you personally and publicly that I am very thankful that you stepped forward. Turns out that you were not just a volunteer who had an interest, that you're truly an expert. And I think you can definitely be proud that you have represented the town very well and did an exceptional job in fulfilling your role on the Mayor's Climate Committee, for short. And I just want to tell you, thank you. You're truly an example of what we look for when we go out and solicit volunteers. And I couldn't be happier after I got to know you and sit in a few meetings with you and realized that I was way over my head in many of the discussions, and that you truly were an expert. And I think it was important having your expertise in developing our energy audit and making sure that our projects that we do are sound projects and based on science. And I think that's truly important when we ask for an advisory committee, that we don't just put together a bunch of advocates and empower them. And you truly exemplify what we look for and hope to find on many of the openings. And I just want to publicly thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Kurt. Don't laugh. He's also an expert in many areas, not just energy efficiency, but he's also applying these projects in a project that has he's got a lot of skin in the game. And I do thank you for making yourself available to help advise, and do want to publicly say that I appreciate it and thank you.
Thank you.
And I think I already said it, but I'm going to end with, the team is together, is why we have teams. They all bring their expertise, and they make sure that we have proper checks and balances in place to ensure that our projects are truly going to benefit the citizens of this town. And this has definitely been a lengthy test of that. But thank you to all the staff that took their time and energy and expertise and applied it to this project. So thank you. And with that, any other discussion from the council? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approve our notice of intent ordinance number 1196, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery power purchase agreement by and between the town of Silver City and NRG Solar Silver City LLC for the purpose of obtaining guaranteed savings in the town's cost of electricity during the term of the power purchase agreement and providing for the pledge of utility cost savings for the purpose of securing payments of amounts due under the power purchasing agreement, ratifying action previously taken in connection therewith, repealing all action in conflict herewith.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1196 as read and presented on the agenda. Is there any discussion? Councilor Morales.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. You know, in a way, sometimes I think too much like an accountant, and I like to simplify things as I try to make my decisions. And I look at this, and we have a private company coming in here and putting in the infrastructure at their expense. Very little cost to us except for maybe foregoing a couple thousand of tax over 20 years. And yet we're saving $4 million just to allow them to do so. And on top of the fact that we're diversifying our energy resources in case certain vehicles of energy, one falters over the other, we have backup to continue serving our community. I support this. Without simplifying too much, even verbally, I feel like this is almost a no-brainer.
Just point out as well that the $4 million savings is almost the entire amount that we did on the 2011 series bonds. Any other discussion? Councilor Benson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to point out that it's energy efficiencies and solutions like these with the team that we have in place at the town that's enabled us to keep our rates for our water and everything else that we charge you and the residents, that we charge residents, and we're all residents up here, that we've been able to keep constant without increasing. It's because of the abilities of our town staff and everybody working together that we're able to increase our efficiencies while providing the services and diversifying our resources to ensure that those services always come through to our residents. So I really thank the town staff and Office of Sustainability staff, and for everyone that's had anything to do with this. This is, as Councilor Rose aptly put it, it's pretty much a no-brainer considering how much we're saving the town and how little expense that we're actually having to put into it.
Any other discussion? There's a motion, a second, no further discussion to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1196 as read and presented on the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next three items on the agenda are all based on the same project. I would like to bring them all up at one time, and then we will vote on them at the end. It'll allow you to make one single presentation, and then we can vote on them independently at the end.
Can we make adjustments?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just that one correction.
Item number D is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2012-02, a resolution of the Council of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico, authorizing the submission of a WaterSmart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation, and authorizing the mayor as the Town of Silver City's executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the Town of Silver City's participation in the WaterSmart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to install a smart irrigation system at the Ben Altamirano Ball Field Park. Item E is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2012-04, a resolution of the Council of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico, authorizing the submission of a WaterSmart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation, and authorizing the mayor of the town of Silver City's chief executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the town of Silver City's application in the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to replace pump motors at the town's municipal well booster stations. Item number F is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2012-05, a resolution of the council of the town of Silver City, New Mexico, authorizing the submission of a Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation, and authorizing the mayor of the town of Silver City's chief executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the town of Silver City's participation in the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to replace water meters at the town's municipal well booster stations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Denise Smith. I work with the Joint Office of Sustainability. Originally, I had all three of these projects in one grant proposal, and then I went to a training that was provided by the Bureau of Reclamation and had some questions. Once they answered my questions, they advised me to separate out these projects into three separate applications. That way, the review team, if they didn't like one part of this, they wouldn't scrap the whole thing. So we have a better chance of getting funded. I did turn in these applications on January 19th. I have 30 days to turn in a signed resolution on each of those. So that's why I'm here before you tonight. On the irrigation system at the ball field park, if you look at the technical proposal, the middle paragraph, about in the middle of the middle paragraph, it says that this project would save about 14.5 acre-feet of water per year, which amounts to about $19,277,000 per year. And then if we count the electricity that we'd save for the pumping, the entire savings would be about $21,180 annually. And of course, as price of electricity goes up, the savings goes up. This type of system is run by a computer. There's a weather station that's put in, and the readings off the weather station are given to the computer. So soil moisture sensors are also put in the soil. So it's only watering what's absolutely necessary to keep the grass alive, rather than them coming on at certain timed intervals when it might be raining or the soil might already be moist. So that's the... Do you have any questions about that particular project?
There's no question, but I'd just like to point out that that has been a significant issue, and we recently pulled a list of all the major water users in Silver City, and it was published on the Gila Forum that this ballpark was one of the top water users in this town. So I think we can definitely improve on our maximizing the actual use of every drop of water that we're putting out there.
And if this application is successful, perhaps we can do some of the municipal parks in the future. On the pump motors, this is essentially the same as what we applied for back in February of this year. So this is replacing the pump motors at the municipal well booster stations with higher efficiency pump motors that would give us about 5% more efficiency. So using that 5%, we figure that the town will save, let's see, where is that? I didn't highlight it with my yellow pen. $8,700 per year overall for all three of these pumps. And so the savings isn't as significant, say, as for the smart irrigation system, but yet this also upgrades our system, our municipal well pumping system. Any questions about that project? Do you want me to also be going over the cost of these as we talk about them?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay. We go back to the smart irrigation system. The town would spend about $20,000 on this project, and we would get funds, $26,000 from the Bureau of Reclamation. That's $20,000 plus indirect costs.
Denise?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
funds that town's contributing, they're coming from the water and sewer.
The water and sewer fund, yes.
Thank you.
It would actually be 1 month's water usage. During the summer, we pay between $16,000 and $22,000 a month on water out there.
And this is actually, these are the highest used ballparks in the area, as far as I understand.
Right now. Yes.
Yeah, these are the ones where all of the different competitions are being held, right? So this is actually good, at least we'll be saving.
Yeah, until we finish our fields and then
Spread it out.
we won't be watering over there at all. Just very little, so.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out, I thought we should stop watering at the Altamont fields, I'm sorry. It's just the way you said that, I kind of stopped for a minute there, Alex.
What is the typical life of a smart irrigation system?
About 20 years, 15 to 20 years.
Thanks. Next.
All righty. On the pump motors, if you look at number 4 in the resolution, the town of Silver City is requesting $178,250 of grant funding, and that is $155,000 plus $23,250 indirect costs. And we would provide a 50% cost share of $169,500, which, if you break that out, that's $154,500 in direct funds and $15,000 in in-kind labor to install the pumps, for a total project cost of $347,750.
And the life of the pump?
What would be the life of the pump motors, do you think?
Typically 15, 20 years.
And the funds are, once again, coming from the water and sewer fund.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next. Oh, Mr. Councilor Moses.
Yes.
Is this something that even if we don't do it in this form, we have to do something to...
That's my understanding, that this is something the town needs to do, and will be doing anyway, whether we get funded or not.
Because and the reason why I ask that is, versus the other project where the first year savings pays our share, and then we have 19 years of just making money,
Sure.
Theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
This, our savings doesn't necessarily pay our share, but it's something that we would be doing in some form or fashion. Okay, and this is something that's been either budgeted or being in the process of being put in the budget?
Being in the budget, being in the process of...
Thank you.
So we would say 50%, though, on the outlay for that.
Yes.
Did you have any comments, Rob?
I just wanted to say that this just doesn't include the replacement of the booster motors. It also includes the replacement of the electric control panels and the installation of soft starts. Soft starts are key in the constant stop and start of motors, where initially a motor can draw up to 300% of the power at startup due to the torque required to start the motor. And what the soft starts do is they ramp the start of the motor and reduce that initial power draw, so it adds to the savings of the project.
And the life of the pump motors.
And exactly, and the life of the motor, because you don't have that high stress torque every time you're starting and stopping the motors. And as far as the motors, They were originally installed in about 86, 88 when the booster stations were constructed, and we are going to now premium high-efficiency motors, which of course are better on electrical usage.
Thank you.
But you've already replaced the pump motors at the municipal wells, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was about 5 years ago now that we undertook a project to go ahead and replace all of the pump motors in our well fields. And we did the similar project where we replaced them with premium high-efficiency motors, and we also did the soft starts and replacement of electrical controls. And that's where, in past, we've discussed how we've actually wound up seeing savings in the well fields where we're doing better on our electrical efficiency.
Thanks.
Okay, are we ready for the third and the last? This is replacement of the meters at the booster stations. Now, there is no actual water conservation or energy savings that results from this, but it does provide additional accuracy in the measurement of what water is pumped from the wells compared to what is billed to people that are using the water. So that helps have a more accurate accounting of what's called the unaccounted water, the difference between what's pumped and what's billed. So this is something that the utility department also wanted, was replacement of these meters. 2 of them are not working at all, and one's a rather older meter. Meters lose their efficiency in measurement over time. So in this number 4 in the resolution, the town of Silver City is requesting $40,250, and that is $35,000 plus $5,250 indirect. And the town will provide a 50% cost share of $35,500. And I understand that we should add.
I'll be making that motion to.
All righty. So we'll have this worded similar to the last one, where we'll include in here $27,500 direct funds plus $8,000 in-kind labor. But I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun.
Something that I'd have to do a motion to do that.
Okay. So are there any questions on this resolution?
Did we consider doing the end-user meters throughout town?
We've been looking at that, talking to the radio read type meters, and that is a significant cost. That's somewhere, what was it for the entire project? It was like $3 million? If we do the entire system. Yeah. So we're trying to figure out how to phase it in, or figure out how to work that out, because that's a much larger cost than any of these. We've been talking to different vendors about it.
And when Nick and I had a meeting 3 or 4 months ago with, I forgot what they call those. It's an energy servicing, ESCO, about performance bonding, and he said actually replacing the meters throughout town is one of the most efficient programs that you can do to actually gain savings with increasing the accuracy. So I think that may be an up-and-coming opportunity. And I haven't heard, maybe Nick can comment, but I haven't heard if they've actually finalized the rules for performance bonding, that we're still in limbo at the time that we had met. Yeah, that's you.
Mike Souther's left. He was the one that looked into that.
So.
The Water Smart program, though, is an annual grant program, and they do have that as one of their items that you can apply for grant funding. So we could talk about that as a future grant-funded project.
That might be a better way of doing it, is apply for half in grant match and then performance bond our match.
Yes, well, I understand, Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're already on a rotation where we replace the oldest meters routinely.
Yeah, the meter department does go in and replace older meters and inaccurate meters when they notice them while they're doing their meter cycles.
So,
Especially the large meters.
Annually, the large consumer meters are tested annually to make sure that accuracy is correct.
so on the others, I mean, if you divert the funds from what we're already replacing, add in a performance bond and hopefully a Water Smart, just broke my mouse, and a Water Smart grant, we may be able to actually come up with a fairly efficient way to convert to the more efficient system, not to mention the decrease in the need for physically reading the meters.
Yeah. There's a few different ways of doing it where you just drive by and it reads, or you can set up a repeater type system where it will just automatically read. And actually, from what I understand from the conversations I've had with a few different, you can actually tell if a person is, throughout the month, if their meter is running 24/7 at night, you can actually notify them, so that the system can be set up so that you can notify them that they may have a leak, and things like that. So there are a lot of advantages to it. It's just, that was one of my biggest concerns was, we do have a lot of projects going on, and I wanted to find a better way of, the most efficient way of converting.
I got to get up at 5 in the morning. I don't know why I brought that up.
Now that you brought it up, I just have to say, I like the fact that, I mean, in the future, to be able to look at that, so that, to be able to notify someone that they might have a leak, or that they left their water in the backyard watering trees, or their kids did, or something like that. I think that that's, in this day and age where we're trying to conserve water, the fact that we live in the desert Southwest is a very good thing. So,
I was impressed by the presentation they gave me, but it's $3 million presentation, so it was a little bit. $3 million.
Well, I mean, there's actually been some headlines in the daily press that were generated from water breaks. So eventually, if we can work towards a system where we can catch those quicker, and it'll be advantageous not only to our operations, but the actual citizens that have to pay the bill when thousands of gallons of water run down a creek. Anything else, Denise?
I would like to add something. We got funded by the New Mexico Finance Authority for a water conservation plan a few months ago. I'm in the final reviews on the request for proposals to go out to get that under contract. It'll be coming soon to the town manager to approve that RFP. So we're getting closer to having a water conservation plan for the town as well. That's all I have.
Any comments, questions from the audience? Seeing none. Council? Council.
Very quickly, yeah. When we replaced those pumps a while back, 5 years ago, did we have any granting opportunities like this? Or did we just pay for them?
We actually paid for them.
So having this 50% grant is something that has not been available before, and the timing appears to be pretty nice, actually. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Councilor Benson? Do you want to?
did you want me to make this one adjustment to the one? Take it out of order?
Can we start with the first resolution, because I'll need 3 separate roll calls.
Yeah, we're going to.
It's to number 5. Do you want me to take it in order or out of order?
It would be easier if we just took them in order and amended
so that, and the second and calendar.
I want to make your life easy, huh?
I'll start off with the first one, just, okay. That's so nice. I move to approve resolution number 2012-02, a resolution that council of the town of City, New Mexico authorizing the submission of a water smart energy and energy efficient water and energy efficiency grant program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation and grant in authorizing the mayor as the town of Silver City's chief executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the town of Silver City's participation in the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to install a smart irrigation system at the Ben Altamirano Field Ball. Ben Altamirano Ball Field Park. Currently, I should not have started off reading this. Yeah.
Councilman,
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
are you sure?
Minus a little tapering off.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on approval of resolution number 2012-02 as printed?
Thanks.
There's a motion and a second. No discussion on approval of resolution number 2012-02 as printed and read twice. Roll call, please.
Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Councilor Thompson?
Aye.
Councilor Riley?
Aye.
Councilor Morales?
Aye.
Motion carries. You want to try it again?
No, I'm going to let someone else do that one. I'll do that.
Councilor Morales.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of resolution number 2012-04, a resolution of the Council of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico, authorizing the submission of a Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation, and authorizing the mayor as the Town of Silver City's chief executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the Town of Silver City's participation in the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to replace pump motors at the town's municipal well booster stations.
There's a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second it, Red.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second. No discussion to approve resolution number 2012-04 as printed on the agenda and read twice. Roll call, please.
Councilor Morales?
Aye.
Councilor Riley?
Aye.
Councilor Thompson? Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Motion carries. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approve resolution number 2012-05, a resolution of the Council of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico, authorizing the submission of a Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program application to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation, and authorizing the mayor as the Town of Silver City's chief executive officer and authorized representative to act in all matters pertaining to the Town of Silver City's participation in the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program to replace water meters at the town's municipal well booster stations. It says the same thing. Is that the right one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With one correction. On page 1 of 2, under number 4, to include, and after, will provide 50% cost share of $35,500 to include, in parentheses, $27,500 direct funds and $8,000 in-kind labor, in parentheses.
Is there applause or a second?
You're so mean.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2012-05 as printed on our agenda and read twice, with the change in number 4 on page 1 of after 35,500 to insert in parentheses 27,500 direct costs and $8,000 in kind labor.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Councilor Thompson?
Aye.
Councilor Wright?
Aye.
Councilor Miller?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Denise. The next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1198. An ordinance amending Chapter 42 by adding a new Article 7 to the Town of Silver City's municipal code relating to the use, improvement, and development of town-owned parks, trails, and open space by franchisees within the town limits of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. This is exactly what we were discussing prior in the franchise agreement, and taking the protections that we put in there for streets, sidewalks, and rights-of-way, and clear sight triangle, etc. We're adding those to the parks, trails, and open space as protected areas that deserve to maintain their current integrity. So if the power company came in and wanted to run a power line over Boston Hill, this ordinance would restrict or prohibit that and allow us to maintain that as open space that's not, doesn't have an ugly, intrusive power line running through it, and as well protect the other trails and open space. Councilor Bettis.
The one question I had in reading this was, it protects open space, but it would also protect, if within the open space we had historic or archaeological sites as well. Because Boston Hill, we do have some, historic mine structures, although they have been pretty much sealed off.
I believe this would allow us to protect those sites as open space, as well as they might fall under other protections at federal level.
Right. That currently exist at state and federal levels. And we also do have some open space, I know, on town property that does have at least one space that does have archaeological site on it.
Is there any comments or participation from the audience? Seeing none, anything from the council? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Benson.
I move to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1198, an ordinance amending Chapter 42 by adding a new Article 7 to the Town of Silver City Municipal Code relating to the use, improvement, and development of town-owned parks, trails, and open spaces by franchisees within the town limits of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. Would they all be that simple to read?
Don't tempt me.
I know.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve notice of intent. Ordinance number 1198. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve notice of intent, ordinance number 1198, as printed on the agenda and read twice. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of bid 1112-17, Pope and 12th Street Signalization Project.
Mayor and Council, the Town of Silver City put this project out to bid. We received 3 bids, and it's staff's recommendation to award the bid to RT Electrical Inc. of Las Cruces for the base bid amount of $210,000 plus gross receipts, $210,000, $267.72 plus gross receipts tax, $15,507.24 for a total project cost of $225,774.96. The grant that was awarded was for a total cost of, total amount of $297,000. We have a remaining balance of $255,862 because of engineering costs that we've paid out of the grant. So the grant is well more than enough to pay for this project.
I just talk a little bit about the box itself. It is, and Peter, you may want to address this, it's really an old box, and as long as I've been the mayor, we've had complaints about it, and they come in and they reset it and change the timing on it, and it resets itself back to a default. And I think I even had to bring in like a real old timer to take a look at it at one point.
Mayor, Council, yes, we'll be addressing all those issues. The intersection of 12th and Pope is, it has the old style lights, and we'll be converting those to those new LED lights. We will also be having the pedestrian flashlights that have the countdowns, and we will be incorporating some future left turn arrows that at this point now, due to the traffic counts that we have, didn't warrant it, but we know that as we go, we're going to need them. So they will be, the lights will come incorporated for future left turns.
Thank you.
We also will be doing a little bit of drainage work also. Water tends to pond right there by the Wells Fargo as you're going north to south, and we'll be fixing that also.
Thank you, Peter, because that was the question I was going to ask, because there's a problem right there, especially for those of us that travel that area.
And drive a Prius.
Yes, and drive a Prius.
We'll also have with the pedestrian lights, we'll also have crosswalks.
On there now. As you know, when we did repave part of Pope Street, we didn't incorporate them because of the project and based on any changes on the angles of the lights, but now with the project, we'll be putting them in.
Great, because, yes, for those of us who drive a Prius and during summer downpours, it can be a bit difficult to come around a corner and start floating. No, we don't really, but I'm just saying there's quite a bit of water in that intersection during rainstorms, with the water running down 12th and everything, so thank you. And the left turn arrows, are those going to be for turning left from Pope? Because there are the ones for the truck, the turn left.
Those will stay there.
Good. Okay.
The ones on Pope itself, like turning onto 12th Street, we'll incorporate those into the new LED lights. As we grow bigger and the city grows bigger and we have more demand, we can put in those left turn.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll have a new control box and everything to go with it.
Yeah, be happy.
That's excellent. Any other discussion, Councilor Rose?
Mr. Brown, you mentioned that this was all paid for grant. We don't have any match or anything like that? No. So we don't have to come up with any other budgeted money? Thank you, sir.
Any other? Entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Rose.
I move for approval of bid 11/12-17, Pope and 12th Street Signalization Project. Per staff's recommendation to RT Electric, Inc., for a total amount of $225,774.96, including gross receipts tax.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to award bid 11/12/17 per staff recommendation. Any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no discussion, to award bid 11/12/17 Pope and 12th Street Signalization Project to RT Electric Incorporated for a total of $225,774.96, including gross receipts tax. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval disapproval of bid 11/12/9 College Avenue roadway and drainage improvements. Don't look at me like that.
Mayor and Council, the town received 3 bids on the above referenced project on College Avenue for road and drainage improvements. It's staff's recommendation. We received 3 bidders. One was non-responsive, so basically we had 2 bidders. Actually, CMC Construction, Inc. of Tier C was the low bidder. But because of our 5% local preference, Southwest Concrete became we had to apply the 5%, and they are the company that we are recommending that we award the bid to, which would include both the base bid as well as the additive alternate, which amounts to $523,369.71 plus $38,598.52 for a total project cost of $561,968.23. This is partially being paid with a grant that we have matched for, as well as some of the loan proceeds that we just closed on, well, we will be closing on.
And I believe this is the project that Peter described earlier in the meeting.
You mean the bond, not the loan, the bond.
Yeah, the bond.
Any questions on the project? Any discussion?
For the road from Main Street, we will be putting the conduit for the future installation of street lights right downtown.
With shields. With shields.
With shields.
Any discussion? Entertain a motion. Councilor Ray.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve bid number 11-12, bid 11/12-9, College Avenue roadway and drainage improvements with staff recommendation to Southwest Concrete and Pavement, Inc. for a total of $561,968.23, including the GRTs.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to award bid 11/12-9 College Avenue roadway and drainage improvements, Southwest Concrete and Paving Incorporated. Total project with GRT of $561,968.23. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is appointment of one member to the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement Citizens Advisory Committee. And Deborah James has been an active participant and has reapplied. And if there's no objection, I would like to reappoint her.
No objection.
No objection.
No objections. Hearing no objections, Deborah James is reappointed. And the next item on the agenda is appointment of one member to the Recycling Advisory Committee. And we have one applicant, and that's Connie Glenn. And I find that she appears to be qualified for her application. I've received no objections from the committee, and if there's no objections, I would like to appoint Connie Glenn.
No objections.
No objections.
Hearing no objections, Connie Glenn is appointed to the Recycling Advisory Committee. We'll send her the appropriate letters. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I gotta get up at 5 in the morning, guys.
I move for adjournment.
I'll second the motion also.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.